Here we go. Folks, I don't know if you guys are aware of this right now, but it's apparently an election year, and there's an election coming up in like a handful of days. And it's getting down to the wire, but there are some debates that are happening, right? And a lot of these debates are at the state level between for Senate seats or for governor positions or for attorney general positions in different states. And that is actually a really important job, in a state. And one of the elections going on right now is for the Indiana attorney general seat. And, well, it got a bit weird, let's say. Let's take a look.
Attorney General
Take a
Todd
look.
Rokita hopes for 4 more years in office.
We're taking this office in an aggressive direction.
But his Democratic opponent, Destiny Wells, is hoping to make a change.
People aren't tired, they're worn out, they just want to get back to business.
2 candidates hoping to take the office go head-to-head on our debate stage. Right now on a special edition of In Focus.
Can I just pause as I have to comment on the set of every single one of these debates? This is a really nice setup for a debate. Like for a state level debate set, this is really good. It look like the lighting's on point. You got the red panel, you got the blue panel, you got the graphics.
The Attorney General debate.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll take a look at some of this week's top stories here coming up. But up first today, a debate in the race for Attorney General. I'm Dan Spieler.
That's
I'll
what
be your
we're here
moderator.
for.
Today we're hosting the Republican and Democratic candidates for Attorney General right here in our studio.
Yeah, it does turn out that Destiny is a girl's name. It's weird.
So before we begin, let's review the rules. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer a question that's directed toward them. If a follow-up or rebuttal is needed, the candidate will get 30 seconds to respond. Another 15 seconds if a clarification is needed. And when the time is up, you'll hear the sound of a bell like this. So with that, we want to welcome both of our candidates here today, Destiny Wells and Todd Rokita. Thank you for being here. With the rules set, let's begin the debate now with our first question. It's a question from a viewer, of which we'll have several today. Annie Garvey from Indianapolis asks about what role the AG should play. She asks, in your own words, help the voters of Indiana understand the role of Attorney General and what your priority would be on day one. Mr. Rokita, I'll start with you. 60 seconds here.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for having us, and thanks to your viewers for your interest. I love the state. I love the people of the state. The role of the Attorney General should be one of protector, and that's what we've done since day one, like protecting our jobs and our economy from bad ideas that come from Washington, D.C., like the Green New Deal that does nothing but jack up our electric prices, or the open border that we have that's causing us to have increased fentanyl, actually killing us, and sex trafficking with our little kids. We have a 94% success rate in our office for keeping criminals behind bars, and that's what protection means.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with this race, but her body language looks like she is getting ready to drop a spirit bomb on him. I have not pre-watched this. I don't know if that's the direction this is gonna go, but she looks like she's cooking. Yeah, already we got a dumbass over here.
$1 billion from corporate wrongdoers in 3 years. That's a state record because they hurt us, they hurt our families. And we also are going after bad companies who are putting dangerous chemicals in our environment, and they're hurting us. I ask everyone to join our movement, to join the fight, and I ask for your vote.
Ms. Wells, same question to you in 60 seconds. What role should the Attorney General play?
Well, thanks for having me, Dan. Good to be here, Todd. My name's Destiny Wells, and since I was 19, I have been serving not just my country, but the state of Indiana. I enlisted very quickly into the Indiana Army National Guard after 9/11, and I still do that today. 21 years later, I'm a lieutenant colonel, and I command a unit of troops. And I also have deployed to Afghanistan, and it was that time for me where I decided uniform would not be enough. I needed to actually get into governance to affect policy. So I came back home and became a deputy attorney general under Curtis Hill. But with my leadership experience that I had, I saw that leadership was lacking. We need better leadership in the office. I want to start doing things like making sure Hoosiers have medical privacy, that we're looking at workers, and we're bringing integrity and back to how we serve Hoosiers.
Mr. Rokita, you've faced a disciplinary probe from the Indiana Supreme Court for some of your comments about an OBGYN from Indiana. Let's go back to the comment here that started this.
Then we have this abortion activist acting as a doctor with a history of failing to report.
So that was back in 2022. It's still possible your law license could be in jeopardy as a result of some of these investigations. What happens if your license is suspended and you can't continue as Attorney General? 60 seconds.
I don't think my law license can be suspended here. I mean, we're talking about
What?
something that happened 2 years ago. We're talking about 16 words. And let me tell you something.
What?
It was a horrific thing to hear.
I don't think my law license can be suspended. Oh, it absolutely can, buddy.
10-year-old and what happened to her is absolutely horrible, and we were all shocked. And I was even more angry and shocked.
I'm not gonna lie here. I forgot that was Indiana. He's gonna get rocked in this race over this particular issue, isn't he? Oh my goodness.
That a medical doctor for political gain would go to the Indianapolis Star with this little girl's story, divulging her confidences, divulging her identity. And she did that because 24 hours later, the news media was at that little girl's doorstep asking about it. That's wrong. And the medical licensing board agreed with me. And finally,
you know what's more wrong? Forcing that little girl to give birth. That's more wrong. You realize that, right?
her that doctor the maximum amount. So it was ill-timed. I agreed with the Supreme Court, but nothing I said was untrue. And that's the reputation I have with the people of Indiana. I'm always direct. I always tell them the truth.
Follow-up question here on that. As you look back on all of this, would you change anything about how you handled the situation? 30 seconds.
You know, being human, I don't know that I could. It was so horrific. But the fact that, and I would never change the fact of what I said, because everything I said.
Would I change anything that he did? No. I mean, it was really horrific and everything was awful. And, you know, I am a human, but I wouldn't have done it any other way.
Said was absolutely true.
Ms. Wells, I want to get your response to this, but also as Attorney General, you would be tasked with representing the state and defending its laws in court. How would you approach that role when it comes to laws you'd rather not defend, and what would your approach be on abortion law specifically? 60 seconds to you.
Right. Well, I know what the abortion law is, and I know my responsibility as the Attorney General. I do know, though, what I won't do. I will not abuse my authority so that I go after doctors and scare them away from the state of Indiana. We are third in the nation for maternal mortality. We have healthcare deserts where women cannot get to the doctor in time, who are having pregnancy complications. In fact, just like the doctor said that would happen with the fallout of SB1, we have seen a woman die just of last year because she could not get to medical care in time. Now, I've heard Mr. Rokita talk about his ethics complaints, but let's be honest, it's not just one complaint that has been filed against him and that he has a conditional agreement with the court.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he's dying. You can actually see him die in like the span of 5 seconds here.
Complaint that has been filed against him and that he has a conditional agreement with the court. It's a second, it's a third.
Oh my God, he's dying.
I'm hearing a fourth was just filed last week, and to be determined by the court if they move forward with it, the commission, and then maybe a possible fifth by a member of the media community.
Yeah.
And so we have a tendency with Todd Rokita to keep getting in trouble.
Past
30 seconds here for a rebuttal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Destiny, never being in the private sector, is an officer of the Democratic Party. This is the same party that a few years ago gave an award, literally gave an award for Democrat Activist of the Year to the same person that is filing these complaints. And then dutifully, it seems, that he runs out to the press to say, I filed a complaint.
Well, yeah, if you're seeing troubling behavior in someone in a position of power, generally something you do if you care about an issue is to file the complaint and then tell people about it. You know, so it doesn't just get lost in the bureaucracy.
I mean, it's a complete weaponization and politicization of the judicial institution. They ought to be ashamed of themselves, making a mockery of the Indiana Supreme Court like they are.
Ms. Wells, 30 seconds rebuttal if you wish, and then we've got to move on.
I would say that the Supreme Court said that that first complaint was founded, that you did in fact violate the rules.
No, I agreed with the Supreme Court to settle the matter so we can stop it from being a distraction. That's what that was about.
Okay. We need to move on. We've got some other topics to get to in a short amount of time.
Dude,
Ms. Wells,
he
a question
looks so
here from
bad.
Jasmine Hulse in Indianapolis, who points to some of your engagement with the public on social media. She called some of your posts aggressive in her view and asked if you plan to continue that style of communicating as Attorney General. 60 seconds to you on this. How would you carry yourself and interact with the public as AG?
Yeah, you know, hey, I've grown up in an industry where I usually was the only woman in the room. And I think that the times have called for women to be more confident in how they carry themselves and especially into elected office. If you look at the ticket across from us, the Republican ticket, there's not one woman on the statewide ticket. And so, yes, I will continue to fight for Hoosiers. I will continue to be aggressive. And, you know, if that's the question for me, I would say look at our current Attorney General. He's so aggressive that he can't keep himself within the limits of our rules of professional conduct. Taxpayers are having to pay over $100,000.
I feel like she's pulling off kind of a perfect combo here. Like she doesn't. This is a short debate. She has 22 minutes to make her point and to put herself out there, and she is manhandling him on that stage. Like, you know, he probably has a pretty sizable incumbent advantage, but like, I wonder if there's even any public polling about this race. Real quick. Attorney General Indiana. Polling. Oof. Okay, as of about a month ago, they were in a statistical tie. So this is going to be a very, very close race.
For $100,000 just to defend him in front of the disciplinary commission.
Mr. Rokita, we do have a similar question for you on this topic. We touched on some of your comments about abortion already. You've also faced criticism from medical experts for questioning the state's COVID reporting, and just this past week shared a potentially misleading claim about FEMA funding and immigration. Our question here, as a state official and an agent of the law, what do you feel is your responsibility when it comes to sharing accurate information with the public? 60 seconds.
To share accurate information like I do. We did a 34-page report on the misrepresentations of the COVID data that came out from the Holcomb administration 2 years earlier. 145,000 or so death records. We looked at them and we found misrepresented causes of death in many of them. And that's exactly what this report details in 34 pages. There's nothing misleading about that. That's about exposing problems, even within my own party. So I'm very bipartisan when it comes to that. It's important to have an independent Attorney General, and I've been that at every step of the way with the people of Indiana.
Ms. Wells, 30 seconds to you on this as well, if you'd like a rebuttal.
Yeah, you know, I've had 20 years of experience in the intelligence community. Misinformation and disinformation is such a threat to the vitality and security of this nation.
Is he an anti-vaxxer? I mean, he's a Republican, so yeah.
And so I would say, you know, just this past week, Mr. Rokita, he repeated misinformation about FEMA, and he did so in a public way. He's part of the problem, not part of the solution.
It's called free
Rokita,
speech,
30
Dan,
seconds.
is what it's called. And especially when it's accurate, it needs to be protected. And
I wonder, like, we're 10 minutes in. I wonder if by the end of, like, in the next 5 minutes, I wonder if he's going to crack. Like, I wonder if he's gonna have kind of an embarrassing meltdown because he seems like a guy who, if you press his buttons enough, really flies off the handle.
And what I said about FEMA is, first of all, the fella who runs FEMA said it himself. And I mentioned that and said, you know, it's a
Oh, she's holding back a smile. She's holding back a smile. I think she knows exactly what she's doing here.
misapplication of priority.
They mentioned perhaps those coming from different funding streams.
It doesn't matter the funding stream because you can move the funding around. The point is priority. They are putting illegal aliens in hotels, giving them cell phones and giving them meals. They are putting illegal aliens. She's a foot, I appreciate her military work, but she's also a foot soldier in the Kamala Harris left.
A foot soldier? Why? What's a foot? A term for a person who balances femme and butch aesthetics. In the realm of politics, I can kind of see it.
Left-wing army.
Briefly,
okay?
30 seconds for a rebuttal if you'd like.
They are putting illegal aliens above Hoosiers, and that's what she'll do as Attorney General.
Ms. Wells, 30 seconds here, and then we've got to take a break.
Well, I would say that my life illustrates that I've always put country first, and that includes country before party. When it comes to immigration, again, I hate to beat the same drum, Todd, but it is a national security concern.
There's nothing you can do as Attorney General?
Immigration makes us strong, but it's also something. There's something that you didn't do. There's something that you didn't do as Attorney General. When you were sir, when you were can I finish, Dan? Dan, may I finish?
I
know for a fact.
I thought it was 30 seconds.
I know, but you've been interrupting, Todd. I know for a fact that labor leaders have come to you and they have talked to you about the problem with immigration and undocumented migrants taking their jobs, and that you have refused.
That's why they've endorsed me
we will get into
just
some
yesterday.
of these topics here coming up. We do have to take a break. A lot
I really don't like her stance on immigration, but
to discuss here. Thank you to you both. We do have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with much more in our debate with the candidates for Attorney General.
What does it mean to be weather rate certified?
yeah, I mean, like, he's an overgrown child. Like that's pretty obvious, right?
Meeting its destiny. What's driving growth? How the
Welcome back to a special edition of In Focus as we're here for a one-on-one debate with the candidates for Attorney General. A lot to get to here with just a few minutes left to go. Our next question does concern the topic of immigration. Ms. Wells, your opponent has said before that he considers Indiana a border state, and he's made several trips there to the southern border. Our question, what role do you believe Indiana should play in the conversation over immigration? 60 seconds.
Yeah, so to pick up where I left off, immigration is a national security issue, and we need to be focusing on having a safe and also prosperous state. However, what the Indiana Attorney General's job is not to be using taxpayer dollars to go to the border, and then not just go to the border, but hit a political rally on the way home. We need to stop preying upon people's fears. It takes a steady hand and a holistic approach for immigration, not making people scared of their neighbors. We need a level-headed person who understands that from the state diplomatic level, city to state diplomacy, that we need to engage immigration in coordination with the federal government.
And like, again, she's also doing the thing. She's pandering to the base. And the unfortunate reality is that Democrats have become more xenophobic over time. And that sucks, but that is kind of where they're at.
Who is in charge of immigration policy.
Well, it all largely flows downstream from like Fox News and conservative apparatuses. That fear, by the way, it's not because like really anything else. It's just the dominance of the fear narrative.
Mr. Rokita, going forward, how do you plan to use your office to handle issues of immigration? 60 seconds.
Look, Dan, you know, I've got 4 jury trials under my belt that I've done myself, okay? We do thousands of trials and criminal appeals and civil appeals every year. Destiny, what you can't do is just go into court and throw a fit. You have to go into court with facts. So I went down to the border and I gathered facts. I gathered them with other attorneys general. And yes,
Yeah, you didn't have a guy for that? You didn't have someone to send for facts? You had to go yourself?
we became the first non-border state in the nation to file a lawsuit. We filed several of them. Because when you don't have a border, when you don't enforce the border, as Kamala Harris and Destiny don't want to do, every state is a border state. And you see it in the increased crime, the fentanyl.
You're right. We need to build a wall around every state. Not just facing the outside of America, also on the borders between states. Okay? That's what we need. That's the next level.
Abuse. Ask any cop on the street what's going on. That's sex trafficking. Our most precious gift from God, our children, are being trafficked. It's ridiculous because Biden and Harris put in 47 executive.
Todd Rokita is a Rizless Trump, except instead of McDonald's, it's Steak and Shake. Well, the thing is, he is the type of politician that very specifically gives me hope in like a post-Trump era. Because like Todd Rokita is basically what your mainstream Republican was for like 50 or 60 years. Like pretty incompetent, pretty bad at his job, and pretty just kind of, well, you know, that's just how it is. I'm going to plod along. Like that's kind of their thing. And so like this is exactly why I don't think that there's anyone really capable of replacing Trump right now as like a fascist figurehead. These guys are too boring.
Borders, telling the Border Patrol, and this is what I found out when I went down there, to stand down. All they have to do is rescind those executive orders, execute federal law, we'd be fine. But if they don't, we're not going to sit back as a state. We're going to act.
Quickly, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the Attorney General is framing that I would throw a fit in court. Never done so. I would say I do have some experience. Yes, in fact, I was going to say, Mr. Rokita, is that my first time practicing law was the most informative for me. I put out my own shingle in my hometown of Martinsville, Indiana, and I got to learn the issues that challenge our everyday Hoosiers,
just like
including trafficking and including immigration issues, but also including a bevy of others that, if you would allow me, maybe I can touch upon later.
Okay, now he's getting some good button presses in. She's saving herself really well, I think. I wish she was a little bit better at like punching back. You know, like I wish she was a little bit better at that. Largely because I feel like she could have come up with something a little snappier there on the fly. But maybe that's also like a calculated risk you need to take. Like being too mean during a debate can really backfire.
We've got a couple more questions we want to get to here, including a topic relating to social media safety. Mr. Rokita, your administration has spoken.
Again, this is why every debate needs to be moderated by Kyle Clark and his team, okay? Because like the moderators here clearly just have a bell and, you know, a gentleman's agreement to not talk over their adversaries.
Spoken out against platforms like TikTok, which you've said can host harmful materials.
Yeah.
The campaign also faced resistance from Hoosiers, though, who said they just want to use the platform and be able to use it. Our question, how do you balance that safety concern with someone's personal freedom to use an app? 60 seconds.
Well, thank you. In the case of TikTok, it's easy. This is a platform by the Chinese Communist government, and it should be dismissed altogether. I encourage your viewers, get rid of TikTok. They're data mining you if you're an adult, and they're
Oh boy. I have bad news for this guy if being data mined is a concern about literally every other app on his phone. You know, it'd be really great if we had some kind of, I don't know, data protections in the United States. I'm just spitballing here.
corrupting your kids. Within 30 seconds of a child signing up for TikTok, they'll learn how to pole dance. They'll be subjected to ads for alcohol.
Hey, out of curiosity, are you saying that because you signed up for TikTok and learned how to pole dance? Because I kind of want to see that now.
And drugs. Now, in China, TikTok's illegal.
Yeah, children would never learn about drugs or poles or you know, sex in any other way in the United States. Why, back when he was a kid, everyone was, you know, straight-laced. No one smoked cigarettes. People weren't getting into knife fights. It was just good, clean fun.
Legal for kids, and you can only use it 20 minutes a day otherwise. Here, they're pushing on us, and it's a way to destroy us. It's a real, our evidence in the case that's just been reinstated suggests that we have very strong evidence.
Look, our kids today don't know how hard it was to track down a used copy of Playboy in the dumpster, okay? And it shows, all right? It built character. It built character. Finding those sticky pages built character. We're built different. We suffered.
On the points I just made, stop using TikTok, please.
Ms. Wells, how would you approach?
Church, home, and Uncle Billy's garbage can, okay? Those were the 3 places we went.
The state's oversight of social media platforms as Attorney General. 60 seconds to you on this.
Well, I would reevaluate the litigation that Attorney General Todd Rokita has entered us into, because I would say it drains our resources. But, you know, it doesn't drain his resources, because if you look at some of this litigation, we see that out-of-state plaintiffs' attorneys.
I'm seeing people in chat talk about forest porn, and I just need to verify, because my assumption is that when you're saying that, you mean like kind of like a communally owned cache of like nudie mags. Is that basically it? Where like the juveniles of the community would just like find them, collect them, and then hide them in the woods? Okay. Gotcha. Public loser. Oh yeah, ours was in a ditch. I just remember finding porn in the forest as a child. What? Just a box of random porn you find in the forest. Desert porn is basically the same, but with more sand. We used to be a real country. It's like a time capsule, but for boobies.
Attorneys are representing the state of Indiana, not Hoosier attorneys. And in fact, they've paid over $100,000 to the campaign fund of Todd Rokita. So if we're going to deal with social media platforms, my priority would actually be to do it in the court of Indiana and put it in front of a Hoosier jury.
We're in 2 courts in
Mr.
Indiana.
Rokita, 30 seconds.
Yeah,
for
thanks.
rebuttal.
We're in 2 courts in Indiana. What you want to do to win, if you really want to win a case, is you get the best talent. Sometimes Indiana attorneys have conflicts. They can't possibly take the case. Sometimes there's attorneys across the nation that specialize in this type of work, and that's what we use every time. We have a great winning record. Again, 94% success rate. No law firm anywhere has that kind of success rate, but your Indiana Attorney General does.
30 seconds, then we got to move on.
I would say if we have to go out of state.
I mean, that's largely because you get people to fold. You like intimidate people until they just take a plea deal. Like that's why.
To find the best talent, we should probably start back at your office and note that the best talent has actually left the office. I worked there in 2020, not one single deputy attorney general.
The people who work for very little
salaries.
salary.
I believe you just said that they were not good enough to handle the litigation.
No, I didn't say that. That's what
I've
you
actually
say.
been a deputy attorney general,
Yeah.
so I don't think I would talk down about their work.
All right,
and you quit because you didn't get enough pay.
We need to
Other
move to a
people
couple more
stayed
questions
because they don't care about
Ms. Wells,
the pay.
30 seconds to respond, and then we
I
move
quit
on.
because I didn't get enough pay.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Did you read the letter, Todd?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a child, and I looked at my child while I rocked him to sleep, and I thought, you know what? We should not be having this pay that is subject to veteran pay disparities. And you know, when you saw my letter when I quit, it was because of a veteran pay gap.
Okay, quickly here, a question.
Oh my God. Like, In terms of a political maneuver, she just got a jackpot. She just got a jackpot because he's been being an asshole for several minutes now. And he then denigrated the work that she used to do. Denigrated her in particular for trying to get more money. And that set her up perfectly to bring up that she did what was best for her child, something that is universally viewed as a good thing. Stood up for herself and also uncovered that she was being discriminated against as a veteran. Which that's pretty much a slam dunk as far as a moment from a debate goes. Yeah, she's smiling like she knows she is about to get a boost in her internal polling.
Tell us
That
about
might
your
be a
pay.
hard turn after all of this. A question that
So
came
it's not
from
about
Brad
your
and
child,
Lawrence,
it's about your
excuse me.
pay.
Brad
No,
and
it's
Lawrence
that I
asked,
deserve better.
in the spirit of encouraging more civil campaigns, will you say something nice about your opponent? Mr. Rokita, I'll start with you.
She's a fighter.
Ms. Wells.
He stays in it for the long haul.
All right, now it's time for our closing statements. Ms. Wells, 30 seconds to you. You're up first for closing statements.
It is my privilege
He just won't fucking go away.
and my honor to be here. I want to make sure that we are restoring integrity to the Indiana Attorney General's office. We're getting away from one-party rule and we're being level-headed. I want a Hoosier taxpayer to be able to walk into the Indiana Attorney General's office and not know if it is a Republican-led office or a Democratic-led office. They will just know that they are great attorneys that are protecting their interests.
Mr. Rokita, 30 seconds
You
to you.
know,
as
when
well.
Hoosiers walk into our office, and I know that they do, I see them all the time, I want them to know that they got someone in their corner. I want them to know they got a fighter, not a foot soldier for Kamala Harris. And that's what, when you have Todd Rokita in office, you have a fighter. I love this state. I love the people of this state. I work to protect you every day. We've been through some of the stats, 94% success rate, $1 billion, a record $1 billion from corporate wrongdoers, and then going after companies who left dangerous chemicals in our soil and that are hurting us. I ask you to join us. I ask for your vote. Let's keep Indiana moving forward.
All right, our thanks to you both for being here today. We appreciate a lot to get to in a short amount of time. We'll have much more on our website and more to come on this week's top stories after this.
That was fascinating, and absolutely, she manhandled him. That was crazy. I unfortunately, there's not a lot of up-to-date polling. Basically, you have polling from 3 or 4 months ago that show Wells 14 points down compared to Rokita, but now the latest polling we have from mid-September is that they were neck and neck, and I have to imagine that this did not help Rokita. I think he looks really bad coming out of that debate. He came across as someone you wouldn't want to leave your spouse or your kid around. He came across unhinged. Yeah, I think that's a good term. My current AG is insane and a horrible human being that even the Midwest Innocence Project endorsed his opponent. They're supposed to be non-political or partisan. Damn. Indiana voter turnout is up, especially among 18 to 29-year-old voters. Well, let's hope they vote down ticket. I mean, they will. Most people do. But you know what I mean. That was a really good performance by Destiny Wells. Here, we're gonna just watch a slight interview with Destiny Wells, just because I want to know a little bit more about her.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I want to start here. What, in your mind, is the role of Indiana's Attorney General?
Well, it's to be the state's chief legal officer. So what does that mean? You have a handful of clients that you have to consider, right? You are the governor's attorney, you are agency's attorney. That's the work I did when I worked there as a deputy attorney general in litigation. I defended the Department of Correction. But you're also there on behalf of the people. So for consumer protection, the big third one I would hit on is that the AG advises the legislature. On is this law constitutional, or do you need a legal opinion on this?
What role do you see for a statewide office holder in the Attorney General to be advocating for policies, whether or not it was directly a part of the duties of the office?
It is a tightrope. And we deal with this question a lot with abortion, right? You shouldn't be talking about abortion. That's the state wrote the law. Right, and we do have to defend it, but we also can withhold from abusing the office. And what we've seen out of the...
Yeah, I mean, basically what she's describing here is that when you run the Attorney General's office, or Attorneys General's office, whatever. When you run the office, you can choose what cases you prosecute, and also you can choose, which ones to put on the back burner or which ones to slowly let die out. You can be selective and pick your battles. You don't have to fight every battle.
Current Attorney General he's taken his partisan positions and he's used his authorities when it comes to licensing to chill medical care.
You bring it up, abortion obviously has been a part of your campaign. If you're the Attorney General and Indiana's abortion ban remains as it is right now, and a doctor performs an abortion that seems to be contrary to that law, do you, as the Attorney General, go after that doctor's license?
So this is what Todd ran up against, right? He wants to go after the doctor that completed the abortion, but really whether it's legal or not. And so he took a press conference in Fort Wayne where he asked the public to sue his client, right, the Indiana Department of Health, so that he could get a hold of the termination of pregnancy reports and he could start investigating the doctor.
That's really nasty.
We will not be doing that. Right, we will not be advocating for the public to go on a witch hunt of medical professionals who are providing reproductive health care. However, if the complaint does come to the office, we will do our due diligence in investigating it.
What are things that you would want to do as Attorney General in the office that you think the office isn't doing right now?
Absolutely. This is one of the things I take the most joy in on the campaign trail, because it really gets down to a people-centered campaign when we talk about this. And what I saw comparatively when I started looking at other offices across the U.S. is that they actually have a division of labor or something similar where they're looking at the shortcomings of workers' rights, whether, labor trafficking is one, because trafficking's already in the Indiana AG's office, in which they're really not paying attention to. But there's also worker misclass, wage theft, issues that the Department of Labor can't wrap their arms around completely either, and neither can local prosecutors. It really needs another actor at the state level. So we are proposing that we start a labor task force.
How do you break through, especially in a year when there is so much attention being eaten up?
Yeah, what she's saying makes perfect sense to me. You need to have leadership. You need to have a body that can tackle these larger cases on behalf of the government. And you need it to be functional. It can't be acting in this highly partisan, politically supercharged way like it has been under Rokita.
By the folks running in the races that come before yours.
Right. Well, from a political science perspective, this is what I've been thinking about since 2022, right? I ran in a midterm against a candidate who was very damaged. Nobody knew about him. Nobody really knew what the Secretary of State did, and we didn't turn out. It was a midterm year. So with this year, with higher turnout, with different types of mobilization now that we have, I'm very happy that we changed out the top of the ticket, right? I know they're excited, as am I, to maybe get my first woman commander-in-chief. I thought I was going to get her in 2016. I didn't. And that's half the reason I'm running, right? I got involved in politics. But there is just so much more at play this year. And things did drastically change with the Harris change-up.
That was all the questions. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Oh, good.
Congressional races.
Oh, God. Anyway, hello, Majority Report. Thank you for shouting me out on the show. And yeah, I think that was a really good debate for her, and it makes me really hopeful that it might depress, or like honestly, if it's neck and neck, it might have even made enough of an impression for Republicans to just skip voting for the Attorney General. Like that'd be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. I think that debate actually moved the needle in its context, and that is really you love to see it, folks. You love to see meaningful political movement in a positive direction.